Mystery Incorporated is something we've been waiting for over 2 years now. And I have to say, it honestly exceeded the hype. This is, of course, a fan-made web series, which is a live-action, more adult take on Scooby Doo. And this is something that we got the first trailer for, or at least teaser or something along those lines, back in 2020. And I have been on board since day one. As soon as I saw that trailer, I was in. So I've been a huge supporter of this series on its whole journey over these past 2 years, trying to make this first episode. And now that it's here, I mean, just congratulations to everybody that worked on the show, and also just thank you for making this, because I've been a huge fan of Scooby Doo my whole life. But especially in recent years, it's become very formulaic, and it's just been the same thing over and over again. So to see this new take on these characters, not only a live action take on these characters, because of course we've had that before in past movies, and I love those movies, especially Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, but to have this adult live action take on Scooby Doo is so different and nothing like we've ever seen before, and I love it so much. Because Riverdale, of course, is a prime example of what this show is kind of similar to. This show is kind of like a mixture of like Riverdale and Supernatural, but with Scooby-Doo. And that's something I really enjoy, because like since when I first started watching Riverdale, like when Riverdale was first a thing, actually when that first season ended, one of the first things I said was, I wish they had a Scooby-Doo version of this. And now we do. The only unfortunate thing is that it is a fan series, which by no means is a bad thing. The only unfortunate part is, funding and stuff like that, is that like, hey, we got the first episode, but it's not like we get weekly new episodes, and, it took them 2 years to do just the first episode. But speaking of that, you can definitely go make sure to check out their social media pages, where there will be a link to their Indiegogo, where you can help support this project and help make episode 2 happen, which I'm really hoping it does, because they really deserve it, and I'm really excited to see where this story goes. So anyways, guys, episode 1 of this Mystery Incorporated series debuted online on their YouTube channel a couple weeks ago. Definitely make sure to check it out if you haven't already. It is so good, and it's called Welcome to Coolsville. And this is going to be my review for episode 1 and just this whole series as a whole, and my general thoughts on it. Now, it is going to be mostly non-spoiler. If I do give away any spoilers, I will give you a bit of a spoiler warning before we do that, but it will be mostly non-spoiler, so if you haven't seen it yet, then you're good. But again, go watch it, because it's so amazing. And actually, speaking of this episode, it's like 53 minutes long or something like that, which is another thing I love about it, because even when it comes to streaming shows, like, those are longer than like regular network TV episodes, but still, I feel like especially in recent years, streaming shows, like episodes like almost never go past like the 50-minute mark. So I love that this episode is almost an hour long. It honestly felt like a movie. Speaking of that, like the cinematography and like the camera angles, yes, this is a fan series, but it felt professional. Like the music, the voiceovers, the camera angles, the cinematography, everything, the acting and all that stuff, the directing, it felt like a movie. And so like I actually sat down on the couch with my popcorn and watched this episode, and it was like a movie experience, and that's something I really enjoyed about it. Now let's start off by talking about our characters here. And the characters are something that I was actually a little concerned about when we first saw the cast, because just judging off their looks, I've never been a big fan of having adults play teenagers in high school, but in this episode, it's not that distracting. I actually really love the actors in these roles, especially Dade Elza as Fred, who Fred is kind of like the star of the series. He's kind of our main character, which Dade actually is one of the creators of the show. So, I mean, of course he made himself one of the main characters, and you can't blame him for that. But it works so well, especially since the whole series, at least when it comes to his characters, kind of centered around his parents' murder, and that's why he gets involved in this whole thing, and how he ends up meeting Velma is because he's interested in trying to solve this mystery and figure out who or what murdered his parents. And so I really enjoy this take on Fred, where, of course, he's a football player, or actually, no, he's playing baseball in this episode, but I assume he's probably a football player as well. And he's an athlete, just like he always has been, but he's troubled with, kind of PTSD from seeing his parents' dead bodies on the ground, that demon standing there in front of them. And so he's dealing with that struggle throughout the series. And really, all of our characters are dealing with certain struggles, most of them with their parents. Fred's parents actually being dead. But then you also have Daphne as well, which actually, before we actually get into talking about Daphne herself, let's talk about Fred and Daphne, which of course, Fred and Daphne, it's always a big romance in everything. But I like that in this series, we're only one episode in, you're already getting the hints of their romance and their relationship, but they're not... they're taking their time. They're taking it slow, and they're going to really build up to that relationship, especially considering Daphne actually has a boyfriend at this point in time, who's actually kind of Fred's enemy and rival right now. But I like that they're building up to that relationship, and that'll happen eventually down the line. But when it comes to Daphne, like I said, she's dealing with her own problems with her parents as well, because, she's the rich girl, and her mom is just like, you have to keep up this image, you're a Blake and all this stuff, and she's like, Miss Popularity at school and everything, and wants to be prom queen and all this, and that's what works with this character. But I also love that despite all of that kind of rich girl bratty nature of Daphne, despite all that, she's still a good person deep inside, and you see that throughout this episode, and that's something I really love, that they're keeping true to that character, that you have those good intentions of Mystery Inc. Then we have Velma, who in the series, of course, is classic Velma. She's the nerd, she's the smart one, she's the one into books and everything, and she's the one that kind of has the knowledge of all these demons and ghosts, but still, bases everything off facts and science, and doesn't truly believe in these ghosts and demons. And I love that, especially when you see that actually Fred and Velma are the ones that kind of start things here. They're the ones that kind of start this mystery and kind of come together and meet first. So that's something I definitely wasn't expecting, but I enjoy seeing her character, especially with her mom having the bookstore, just like she did, at least she had the museum in Mystery Incorporated, the animated series, but I enjoy seeing that. And then finally we have Shaggy and Scooby Doo, who usually are like the main stars of every Scooby Doo project, but in this, they're not, especially when it comes to Scooby Doo, where of course this is a realistic take on Scooby Doo. He doesn't talk, which works. It works actually really well here, because I love Scooby's relationship with Shaggy, and how, Scooby, he doesn't say anything, but it's like Shaggy is talking to him. So I love that, and I love that relationship and that dynamic between those two characters, and it's a great way to have that realistic approach to Scooby, where he's not talking, but you can still kind of have him talking with Shaggy, and have that communication, that relationship, and that bond between those two characters, without actually having words come out of this dog's mouth. And unlike the past live-action Scooby-Doo movies, Scooby in this film is actually played by a real-life Great Dane. The dog's name is Thor von Schultz, which, by the way, is a cool enough name on its own, but then he gets to play Scooby-Doo, so that's awesome right there. And then Shaggy, this is the one that I was most interested to see in this series, because with this being an adult take on these characters, when it comes to Shaggy, you of course have to go back to his roots, where there's always been this big conspiracy theory that, Shaggy, he's a hippie, and he's always been into drugs and stuff, and you actually see that in the series, that he is a drug dealer. He's trying to get out of it, especially when you see that his father is the police chief, so it's really hard to navigate that whole line of business right there. But he's also kind of a nerd, he gets bullied by the jocks and everything, and I'm liking it. I like seeing all of these characters on their own individually, and then you build them up so that when they come together as a team, they have a better group dynamic. Now, when it comes to this series, you can really, really tell that the creators of this live-action Mystery Incorporated series are just huge fans of Scooby-Doo and just love these characters and this lore, because not only have they done a great job with these characters, but there's also so many references and so many Easter eggs to all of Scooby-Doo history, basically. Obviously, the town is Coolsville, so we have that reference right there. You have some other name drops and character appearances, like you have a version of Flim Flam in here. You have the name drop of Ben Ravencroft and Jonathan Jacobo with the pterodactyl ghost. And I love how they tie all of this in here together to just create this whole mythology of Scooby-Doo in this universe. Even going as far as having the Hex Girls show up here and the Minor 49er, and we'll get into more details about that in a bit, but I just love that, because you can really tell that the people who made this show are true fans of Scooby-Doo. But now let's talk about the mystery, because that's another thing I love about the show, is that we are dealing with a big overarching mystery for this season. It's not going to be like at the end of the season, there's going to be the monster that gets unmasked and you have the culprit revealed. No, I would have gotten away with it too if you weren't for you meddling kids. Now, we might have that at some point throughout here, especially considering there's a couple characters throughout this first episode that I'm a little suspicious of like, hey, he could be up to something there. But we're dealing with actual supernatural demons here, so we're not going to be completely having that, but I do love that we have still a mystery going on in the series, and this is where we're going to get more into spoiler territory for this pilot episode. Again, make sure to go check it out. But let's talk about the mystery of Mystery Incorporated Season 1. So we are dealing with the Book of Demons and the 13 Pillars, which of course this is a take on the Chest of Demons in the 13 Ghosts from, of course, Scooby Doo and the 13 Ghosts, which I love this. I love this so much. Of course, it being originally the Chest of Demons, but now it's been turned into a book. There's a lot of things that they've taken from the original Scooby Doo content and just changed it a little bit and reimagined it for this series, which has worked out in its favor so well. So you have the Book of Demons, which has released the 13 Pillars, and there's these 13 different demons and monsters and ghosts that have now been unleashed on Coolsville, and you see the first of which in this episode is the Minor 49ers. So I love that we're seeing these classic Scooby-Doo villains brought to life in this series in, again, a reimagined sense, where you have, in the original Scooby-Doo episode, Mind Your Own Business, where we had the Minor 49er, he was just a guy that dressed up as a miner, basically. But in this show, he is an actual minor demon ghost type thing. And same thing goes for what I was talking about earlier with the pterodactyl ghost. I love how they reinvented that character with saying that in that story that Velma was telling Fred about, that instead of him being, like in the original episode, a guy that just dresses up as a pterodactyl for some weird reason, and some guy's just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, he actually was supposedly possessed by this, like, pterodactyl prehistoric dinosaur bird ghost demon thing. I love that there, especially when we get to the end of the episode here, when we get to see our next villain, which I'll talk about again in a little bit as well. But when we get to the ending of this episode, we get kind of this reveal that the Hex Girls are kind of the villains of this series, which was a big plot twist for me I wasn't expecting, because I love seeing the Hex Girls show up here. It did throw me off a little bit at first when they started, actually performing, and it seemed like, at least I'm like 99% sure, that they just used the original audio from Scooby Doo and the Witch's Ghost. I'm pretty sure they used that same exact audio. I would think it would have been cool if they recorded like their own version of the song, but still cool nonetheless. Like they just seem like classic Hex Girls. But then at the end of the episode, when they actually have these Wiccan powers, which in Scooby Doo and the Witch's Ghost, they weren't actual witches. We did find out that Thorn was actually like 1/8 Wiccan or something along those lines. So they're just going all in with these characters. They are actual witches, and they summon the Minor 49er from hell, and then kind of like absorb him. So I don't know if it's going to be like they're kind of power hungry, and throughout this series they're going to be trying to collect the 13 pillars and just absorb these demon and monsters' energies or powers or something like that. I don't exactly know what it is, but either way, it's cool. And I love this whole thing. There's like 13 monsters going around, and at the end of the episode we have this big reveal of our next one, the Black Knight. And I love this reveal for the Black Knight, how you start off seeing just the sword unsheathed from his belt, and then you get to see a little bit of his armor, and then it pans up, you see the helmet, the glowing yellow eyes in the face, which is something I love about this. Another classic reference to the original appearance of the Black Knight, where actually in Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, when we saw the live action version of the Black Knight, he had green eyes there, but in the original cartoon he actually had yellow golden glowing eyes, and in this version we also have those yellow golden glowing eyes as well. And it is definitely a cheaper looking version of the Black Knight compared to what we saw in Scooby-Doo 2, but then again, it is a fan series, so you have to give it more credit than what you're looking at here, because they're on a smaller budget. It's also not a movie and actually not officially produced by Warner Brothers. So I think they did a nice job with the design of the Black Knight. I'm excited to see this take on the character, especially with it being an actual demon, and also the brutality of the Black Knight, because this episode literally ends with him like slicing a guy in half with his sword, and that's something you can do with this darker take on the Scooby Doo mythos, is that you can actually have violence and blood and all this stuff, and that's something I'm really excited to see. Now, who knows what other monsters we're going to be seeing throughout the series as the 13 Pillars. In the trailer, or one of the trailers, we did see the Phantom Racer, so that's something cool I'm excited to see. I'm assuming we're probably going to be seeing the Space Kook as one of them as well, because Dade Elza, who plays Fred again and is one of the creators of the series, has said that the Space Kook is like his favorite Scooby-Doo villain, so I would not all be surprised to see him show up, but I'd love to see like maybe the green giggling ghost, the tar monster, the 10,000 volt ghost, maybe the ghost clown. I'd love to see some of these other classic Scooby-Doo monsters and villains come into play in this series, and see that we're actually getting dedicated episodes to these characters, like how next episode, it's already been revealed that the episode is called What a Night for a Night, because of course that is the episode title of Black Knight's original appearance in the premiere debut of Scooby-Doo. So I love this series. I think Mystery Incorporated is great. It's a great new original take on these characters, a new modern adult darker version of Scooby-Doo, you know, having all these references and Easter eggs and connections and accuracy to the past of Scooby-Doo and to all this mythology and lore of Scooby-Doo history, but still making it their own. And that's something I really enjoy about this. And again, the only unfortunate part is that we don't get to have these weekly episodes, so who knows when we're going to be getting episode 2. Like I said, you can definitely help support the project and help them with their funding on their Indiegogo page. Definitely check out their social medias and help support this project. But whenever we do get episode 2, it is definitely going to be worth the wait, because I'm so invested in this and I'm so excited to see where we go from here with Mystery Incorporated. But that's it for now, guys. You can let me know your own thoughts in the comments below. Did you watch Mystery Incorporated episode 1, aka Welcome to Coolsville? What were your thoughts on it? What do you think about this new take on Scooby-Doo? What other monsters do you want to see appear here as the 13 Pillars? And just what are you most looking forward to in the rest of Mystery Incorporated Season 1. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the movie life.